Hello!
Welcome back to the channel.
Hello! We are somewhere different today. We're not journeying, we're at home.
Yay!
Hooray! Why are we at home and talking to them, darling?
Well, if you watched last week, we got to the end of our series following our adventures on Eigg. So we thought we'd do a bit of a retrospective and look back and tell you a bit of interesting facts and figures about Eigg, about our visit and the logistics of getting there in case you're interested in visiting yourself.
Which you should be, because it's nice.
It is very nice.
Very nice. So welcome to our humble home. As you can see, we've got pictures behind us of other places we have been. Yeah, there are 2 pictures from Eigg. There are also 2 other pictures, brownie points, if you can recognise where they're from. Tell us in the comments, all that kind of thing. So shall we begin?
Yes.
Right, so you tell them all about the lovely Isle of Eigg.
I guess the best place to start is where it is.
So it's off the west coast of Scotland, just off a bit from Mallaig, that kind of neck of the woods.
Yeah, it's south of the Isle of Skye, north of the Isle of Mull, and there's 4 main islands that make up the small isles. So there's Rum, Eigg, Muck and Canna. And obviously we spent a week on Eigg.
Which is the second largest.
It's the second largest, I think.
Of the small isles.
Yeah, it's about 12 square miles. I don't know what that is in kilometres. I'll put a translation onto the screen. So it's not very big. Visitors aren't allowed to take cars, so you can't drive around. You can have a car if you're local and live on the island, but visitors aren't allowed to take cars, which makes it a very interesting place to visit. You will do a lot of walking. Population is about...
We were told 115.
Yeah, ish.
When we were there. Obviously, these things change, but yes, not very big.
Yeah, probably slightly higher when we were there because of visitors.
Yes. Yeah.
But still, it's not very busy. You will go days when you see more sheep than people, and it is so quiet, isn't it?
Smashing.
Yeah.
So nice. So nice.
Yeah, it's. I think being there in that sense of solitude and being by yourself is not really anything we've really experienced anywhere else before. So we definitely recommend that.
So how do we get there? Right, so we live quite a long way away from Eigg. So we're in the towards the south of England. We're in Cambridgeshire. So it's a long drive.
Yes.
We did it in 3-hour stints, didn't we?
Yeah.
Pretty
So
much.
if you get the ferry to Eigg, you've kind of got 2 options. There's a small ferry from Isle of Eigg, which is passengers only, but that's not really an issue because, like we just said earlier, if you are travelling there and visiting, you're not allowed to take the car anyway. But the main service goes from Mallaig, and that's where the bigger ferry is, and that's the one we took.
Yes, we did.
That's a cat destroying one of our chairs.
So we got the ferry from Mallaig, and it is so cheap. It's ridiculous, isn't it?
How much did it cost?
£8.70 return each. £8.70 return. It's bonkers. And the ferry crossing takes about 1 hour and 20 minutes.
Yeah.
Weather dependent. Obviously, there's getting on and getting off that makes it a bit longer than that, but it's all good. And it was very easy, and the staff were great, weren't they?
Yes.
We were concerned going out because the weather was not great.
No.
And there had been lots of, keep your eye on this ferry, it might not run. But the staff were very encouraging, and they know when it's going to get cancelled, don't they?
If you're doing it, definitely worth following the Calmac Ferry Twitter account.
Yes.
They're quite good at keeping you abreast of what's going on and updates, and giving you a fairly reasonable indication of if the weather is iffy, whether you're likely to sail the following day or not. So yeah, definitely worth watching that. Yeah. I think the most complicated part about getting there is getting to Mallaig. It's about 50 minutes on the train from Fort William. So if you were getting the train, you'd be going via Glasgow, Fort William, Mallaig. In the end, we thought that driving was the easiest option. Because even if you fly into Glasgow or somewhere like Inverness, you've still probably got another 2-3 hours from there to find your way down to Mallaig. So not the easiest place to get to, but very much worth it.
We first did a Google. That's what we did. We just plain old-fashioned Googled accommodation on Eigg. It took us to a really great little website that the Isle of Eigg community have. I think I will link it. It's something really snappy, like isleofegg.co.uk. It's really helpful. And then they separate it out, and there's a little thing you can click on for accommodation, and it just shows all sorts of places. And there's a real interesting range. There's not lots, but the range is interesting.
So yeah, from glamping pods to full-blown guest house, really, isn't it?
Yeah. So we stayed at Glebe Barn, which is about a mile from
just over a mile from the ferry.
Yeah. So Glebe Barn is kind of two things in one. It's a hostel, and there's also a separate self-catering little apartment, which is where we stayed, and it was great, wasn't it?
Yes.
Oh,
great central location.
Yeah.
Easy to get to most places.
Yeah.
Quite a lot of the accommodation is up to the north of the island in Cleedale, which it's a nice little, I suppose call it a town. It's not a town. collection of houses, but you're much further away from the sort of the main facilities in terms of the shop. You know, you're probably
You're another
hour and a half walk.
Yeah.
Probably from there. So depending on how much you've brought with you and how long you're staying.
Yeah.
But there's everywhere you stay will be lovely.
Mm-hmm. So these are summer 2023 prices. So we were there for 7 nights and it cost £462, which I thought was brilliant. Brilliant. That's like £66 a night or something ridiculous. It was great. So food, got to feed yourself. So we did a combination of things. We stocked up because we didn't know what to expect, did we? We didn't know how much you needed to take with you. We knew there was a shop on the island, but you just never quite can guess what will they have and blah, blah, blah. So we hit the supermarket before we left home.
Yes.
And we so we had cans of soup and all sorts of things in our luggage and things
Rice and pasta and
all that kind of stuff. Anything that was packable, we took with us in our luggage.
Our luggage weighed considerably more on the way out than it did on the way back because we ate half of it.
So you could stock up. So that's great, but we've told you can't take your vehicle onto the island. So you have to, anything you need to take with you, you have to be able to carry it yourself in one go.
As you get off the ferry.
So, you can't go on the ferry with one bag and then go, hang on a second, and go back and get the other one. They won't let you do that. So if you're strong enough, you're good. However, the shop was fab, wasn't it?
Yeah.
We were blown away by how well stocked it was. It's family owned, and it's also the little post office as well.
Yep.
And they have fresh food as well as lots of packeted stuff and all the boring stuff that you might need on holiday, like, I don't know, washing up liquid.
Toilet rolls, kitchen rolls.
Yeah, all those boring things. But
some of the fresh food, you have to wait for the boat to come in the morning. So if the weather's not great, there may be a few days when the stocks on the fresh stuff get low, but in terms of rice and pasta and tins and the non-fresh food, really well stocked.
But of course you can eat out. We ate
a couple of times
at Galmisdale Bar and Cafe.
Yes.
Which was top.
Very good.
Very good. Lovely. We had lunches there, we had dinner there. It was great. Highly recommend that.
So the first thing I need to worry about is getting from the ferry to wherever it is you're staying. And a lot of the accommodation, I think, does offer to come and collect you. That certainly happened to us.
Yes.
But obviously that would depend slightly on where you're staying. If you're staying for a longer period of time and you've got quite a bit of luggage with you, you certainly don't want to be carrying that all the way back to the accommodation. No. So definitely worth thinking about that and planning that in advance.
Yeah. And once you're on the island, if you want to get around...
legs.
Yes, you can walk. You can do a lot of walking. You will do walking. But one of the things that we found really helpful...
Really, yes.
Because we're not hikers, are we? That's not...
No.
We like going for a walk, but we don't necessarily scale mountains. So we were a bit concerned that we might be a bit pooped all the time. So we used the brilliant Egg Adventures, and we can't speak highly enough of them. It was just great. So we hired 2 e-bikes from them. Owen, who runs it, is great. He's made a fantastic map of the island, and he talks everybody. If you hire something off him, he makes you, right, come and look at my map, and I will talk you through them, and I will tell you which roads you need to be a little bit careful on corners because you might fall off and all that kind of stuff. He's very thorough, very helpful.
Yeah,
and clearly loves the island, doesn't he?
Yeah, I think the e-bikes are definitely worth it. It's not very up and down, but it's certainly not flat. So you could hire normal bikes, regular bikes, but we found the e-bikes to be really useful.
Yeah.
It helps in terms of if you're having a day out or planning a walk, at least the bikes get you to a starting location. Otherwise, you are literally every walk and every time you're going out, you're starting from wherever you're staying. So we found it really useful, didn't we?
Brilliant, absolutely great, yeah. And having never used e-bikes before, we were like, wow, these are zippy, aren't they? They were great.
Yeah, really good.
And I thought it was reasonably priced. So we had 2 bikes, we had them for 5 days, and it was 300 quid.
Yep.
I thought that was okay.
Yep.
That's okay. And you know that you're ploughing money back into the community as well.
Yes.
So that's, double bubble good.
But there's lots of things to do, lots of things to see, lots of things to explore, and some really spectacular views and some beautiful scenery wherever you go on the island.
We made it to the foot of Ansker, didn't we? I didn't make it all the way. I was a bit pooped by that point, but you went further, didn't you? It was great. Ansker means jagged rock or peak. But it was very good, but it was a very boggy walk, wasn't it? Despite being August. It's hard work.
As hills go, Ansker isn't a difficult climb. It's really easy to see the path. It's really easy to see which way you've got to go. The path itself is on the map, but it's visually it's really easy to follow. It's not too steep. It gets a little bit rocky, but certainly when we were there, it was wet and it was boggy, and that's what made it most difficult. Yeah. But it's definitely worth it for the views.
Another slightly tricky walk that was going down to the caves.
Yes.
So there's 2 caves, Cathedral Cave and Mallaig Cave, and we did that walk, and it was lovely until the last little bit of it is
getting down onto the beach is a little bit of
tricky.
It's a bit of a drop.
Don't take your flip-flops, not appropriate footwear, no. But again, worth it, but just be ready, it's not a stroll.
Yes, and if you're going to do Cathedral Cave, check the tides, because it is only accessible
at low tide.
At low tide, so don't get caught out.
One more slightly tricky walk, but so worth it, was getting to Singing Sands.
Yes.
So we did 2 walks on one day. We went to Mallaig Bay, which was great. Oh my God, so beautiful, so beautiful. That was an easy walk. You just get off your bike and you just stroll down this little path, and there's this beautiful beach.
And we were the only people there, weren't we?
Couldn't see another human. It was amazing. We saw sheep and a cow, and that was it.
And some rabbits.
And some rabbits, yes. Yes, we did see evidence and actual rabbits, didn't we? That amazing warren. Yeah. It was great. It was lovely. So then we thought, now we'll just stroll on to Singing Sands. Yes, 3 hours later. So that was a trickier walk. Again, lack of way marking was a bit tricky.
Bit boggy.
And boggy. We did get slightly kind of, are we heading in the right direction? But we got there in the end. It was all good. And the final bit of the walk down, again, bit tricky. Mind your feet, but it's very much worth it.
Yeah, really lovely beach.
Gorgeous, gorgeous, gorgeous.
We went down to Caledonian Bay,
which
is almost just walking, I'd say, down the road. It's probably 30-minute walk from where we were staying.
All tarmacked.
Yeah.
And it's all great. The roads are good, aren't they?
Yes. less potholes than here.
Considerably less potholes. So yeah, that was a beautiful little bay. Again, no humans.
Nope.
Wonderful.
Very quiet.
And it's worth walking down there because if you just walk a little further, you get to the historic graveyard. and the Gig, and it's just gorgeous.
Yeah.
Just gorgeous. So that's an easier stroll.
That's one of those things that's slightly trickier to find if you don't know what you're looking for, but there is a sign on the side of the road that's easy to miss, but you spot that and then you can double back on yourself to go a short walk up the hill to the graveyard.
Yeah, that's lovely. Another easy walk was through the woods.
Yes.
That was gorgeous, wasn't it? What can you see if you go through the woods?
Trees.
It was just so unusual to be on this remote Scottish island and you'd be walking through sort of craggy moorlands and peat bogs, and then all of a sudden there's a forest.
Yep.
And you're just like, sorry, what's happening here?
Forest might be slightly dramatic, but a woodland.
Looked after by the Forestry Commission.
Yes.
So, hey-ho, Scottish Forestry Commission. That's lovely.
And I think that was one of the most striking things about Eigg is there really is a little bit of everything in terms of the diverse landscape. There's hills and crags and beaches and cliffs and the woods. It really is a mix of everything in a really small little space. It's really lovely.
Great. So we had a really interesting walk up to see the wind farm.
Yes.
The little wind turbines. Well, they're not that little. I don't know if they're little. They're quite sizable. Eigg has very good green credentials.
Yes, and it's very proud of its
And it's, so it should be.
green credentials and its energy generation.
Yeah, so there's a company called Eigg Electric, and it's owned, managed and maintained all by the community. In 2008, Eigg became the first community to have their energy source come from all three of hydroelectricity, wind farm and solar panels, and I think they're very proud of that to be a world's first, aren't they?
Yes.
It's really interesting how they make sure that everything is entirely renewable and green, and it felt kind of cool that we would get home of an evening and recharge our cameras and things like that, knowing that everything was renewable. That felt really good.
And it's all run and managed by the community on the island, and I think, again, they're very proud of that as well. So they should be.
Yeah, so they should. It's very special. It's a big thing that they've done. It's really good. So it started before we'd even arrived on the island.
Yep.
So on the ferry across, yes, it wasn't dreadful weather, was it? It was a bit showery and it was a bit bumpy, but it wasn't.
It certainly wasn't as
awful.
bad as the weather forecast had suggested
Made
that
out
it
to
might
be.
have been the day before.
So we didn't even go inside. We spent the entire journey on the front of the ferry on the observation decky bit that's outside, and watched the world go by, and it was great. And we had common dolphins.
Yay!
Yay! That was exciting. And beautiful Manx shearwater birds that were flying through, that were just aerial acrobats, weren't they?
Yeah.
It was fantastic. So, yeah, so don't sit on the ferry and miss out on all the fun. It's great. But on the island, we saw seals.
Yep.
We saw buzzards.
Eagles.
We saw eagles. We're pretty sure it was an eagle.
Pretty sure it was an eagle.
Pretty sure it was eagle. So if you're a wildlife fan, it's definitely worth a walk. They have walks organised twice a week in the summer from Scottish Wildlife Trust. So a warden will take you on a little guided tour. I think it's Mondays and Wednesdays, and one of them is just an hour's walk, one of them's a longer walk. And they're free. They ask for donations, which seems entirely appropriate to support their work. And they're definitely worth a go, aren't they, as well?
Guided tour is good.
Yeah, when you've got somebody who's very knowledgeable about where to look for stuff, and you'd miss things, wouldn't you?
Yes.
It's great. So, in conclusion, Flower, what sort of person would you recommend this sort of holiday for?
I think if you like a holiday where you could do quite a bit of walking, but see some beautiful scenery, see some interesting wildlife, somewhere a little bit unique, unlike anywhere that you've probably been before, I think Egg's probably the place for you.
So I hope you found this useful. Maybe it's helped you plan and inspired you to have your own trip to the Isle of Eigg. Do it. Go.
Do it.
Very definitely. And if you do, let us know. If you've got any questions, pop them in the comments. We'll try our best. We're not the experts on these things, but we can only give you our experience and we'll try our best for you.
Yeah. If you haven't watched the series, then there'll be a link to the playlist at the end of the video. Do check it out. Definitely worth watching. If you have and you liked, then maybe click the thumbs up, give us a subscribe, leave us a comment. It really helps us out. And thanks for watching.
Thank you. Bye.